Sleeping Beauty, while it was a commercial flop when it first came out, it has since gone on to become a Disney classic, becoming the central castle at Disneyland Anaheim, and Princess Aurora becoming one of the most famous Disney princesses. But how did this go from being a flop to a Disney classic? Well, let's take a look. Before we go any further, I would like to take this moment to let you know there will be spoilers in this video, so if you don't want this movie to be spoiled for you, stop watching now. With that out of the way, let's continue. The story begins with everybody heading to the kingdom to celebrate the birth of Princess Aurora. We get an introduction to all the characters, including the fairy godmothers, Prince Philip, the two kings, Hubert and Stefan, and I guess Princess Aurora, even though you don't really see her, all you see is her baby cradle, but I digress. Everyone is happy to celebrate the birth of a young princess, that is, until Maleficent shows up. She wasn't invited to the celebration, she doesn't quite take kindly to that. This leads her to put a curse on Aurora that she will die on her 16th birthday from touching a spindle. In order to protect Aurora, the fairies take her into hiding and raise her themselves for 16 years. During that time, she meets Prince Philip and they bond. However, the fairies decide to take Princess Aurora to the castle to be crowned for her 16th birthday, but not without Maleficent taking notice. She makes Aurora touch the spindle and captures Prince Philip. The fairies rescue Philip, leading to a climax between Maleficent and himself. Philip defeats Maleficent, wakes up Aurora, and they live happily ever after. Overall, the story maintains that classic Disney fairy tale formula with a few new twists thrown. For example, Prince Philip plays a much larger role in this movie than most other princes did in other movies such as Snow White and Cinderella, and he had more character development than all the other princes in previous Disney movies at that time. So good on Walt Disney for deciding to change it up with that. Princess Aurora is a good character, she has a nice charm and is very likable and carries every scene that she's in very well. However, while both these characters have good things about them, there is one major problem that hinders them, and that is the dialogue they have. Or lack thereof. For some reason, after Aurora touches a spindle, neither her or Prince Philip have any dialogue throughout the rest of the movie. And I'm not talking like they barely speak at all, no, they're mute. Princess Aurora I can forgive because she's asleep most of the second half of the movie, but Prince Philip, dude, say a word. I mean, you make it look like Link from Legend of Zelda talks more than you, and all he does is this. Good news is that what the main characters lack, the supporting characters more than make up for. They do a good job keeping the story going and provide some nice comic relief. One scene that comes to mind is when two of the fairy godmothers are fighting over what color the dress should be in the cabin. I found that part very funny and laughed quite a bit during it. I also enjoyed the scene with King Hubert and King Stefan talking, even though I kind of feel like that scene was just filler. And I always found the drunk guy funny. But one of this movie's biggest stars is actually the villain, Maleficent. My gosh, I love this villain, without doubt one of my favorite Disney villains. Maleficent is everything you want in a great villain. She's charismatic, she's intimidating, and she's powerful both mentally and physically, making her a villain that would be really scary to go up against. While the story certainly has its flaws, it still is pretty good and holds up pretty well, but let's see how the animation is. The animation in this movie is absolutely gorgeous, and is actually very unique for Disney, especially at that time. Instead of trying to make the animation look 3D like they did with Snow White and Pinocchio, instead this time they try to make it look like the people are walking through tapestries or medieval paintings, and it looks beautiful. This is primarily because of two people, Mary Blair and Ivan Earl. Mary Blair had done a lot of concept art for Walt Disney movies, including Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland. However, Walt Disney felt that sometimes the movies underrepresented the quality of her concept art, and with Sleeping Beauty he did not want that to be the case. So to make sure that didn't happen, Walt Disney turned to Ivan Earl, who made sure that her work was represented well in Sleeping Beauty. Clearly, he pulled it off very nicely. There's one scene in particular that really stands out to me, and that is when the fairies are giving Princess Aurora her gifts at the beginning of the movie. Check out this scene. Look at how the artwork and the colors blend so well together. The animation is colorful, it flows very smoothly, and Ivan Earl's artwork stands out very well in that scene. Animation like this is why I have such a big love and respect for hand-drawn animation. This kind of animation has a certain charm to it that you really don't see that often today. With Sleeping Beauty excelling in animation, let's see how it did with the score. If you ever want to figure out where the inspiration for this movie came from, look no further than the original score written by Peter Tchaikovsky. He wrote it as a ballet long before this movie came out, and it was the big inspiration to get the movie started, as Walt Disney himself has said.
Inspiration for Sleeping Beauty was this wonderful score written more than 75 years ago by Peter Tchaikovsky.
Unlike how all other Disney movies are driven by song and musical numbers, Walt Disney decided to let the orchestra of the ballet take over the majority of this movie. Actually, when it comes to musical numbers and song, this movie is remembered for only one, and that is Once Upon a Dream. This is actually a very good song. It fits the theme of the movie well, and Mary Costa sounds amazing singing it. And Bill Shirley has a great baritone tenor voice that really carries the song as well. Walt Disney did decide to make some changes to Peter Tchaikovsky's classic ballet, and the person to carry that out was George Burns. George Burns does a good job of putting his own twist on the music while at the same time being respectful to Peter Tchaikovsky's original ballet. I think you could argue that the music is the most important part of this movie because without it, Walt Disney wouldn't have had his inspiration to make the movie in the first place. And Walt Disney does a good job of bringing the music to life in many scenes in this movie. I have to say, without a doubt, this is a very solid and very unique Disney movie. It still baffles me sometimes why it was such a flop when it first came out. Even though it does have some story problems, it still has good characters, great animation, and a great score. If you're an animation lover, a huge Disney fan, or even just a casual movie person, I recommend this movie for you. In fact, I actually recommend getting it on Blu-ray. Thank you guys for watching this video, and let me know what you think of this movie in the comments section. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and hit the bell. See you next time.